Hello everyone. Today we're going to be working on the JarvisOS project. This is a personal project of mine that I've been working on for the last little while. Basically, it's a voice-activated AI assistant. It has interruption support, wake word support, and stop word support. It allows you to talk to the bot on your phone or desktop because it works right from the browser. This is pretty much what it is here. I'm using 11 Labs for
All
the voice.
systems are live, sir, and at your service.
And yeah, you can just talk to it and it talks back. Hello, Jarvis.
Hello. I'm here and ready to chat. What's on your mind today?
And it's fairly responsive. I have everything streaming right now. It streams the AI response using GPT-4o Mini, and it streams the audio from 11 Labs as well. So it's pretty quick. It's not as quick as absolutely possible. Dedicated services like the OpenAI real-time streaming API, that's better in a lot of ways because it just works differently. It reduces a lot of latency that way. But this is way cheaper. So the fact that it's able to use GPT-4o Mini and 11 Labs and DeepGram for the transcription, I found that was faster than OpenAI Whisper. It was like 5 times faster or something like that. And so I've been able to speed that up as well. Yeah, it just seems like the better option. What do you think about that, Jarvis?
It sounds like you've put together a solid system with a great balance of performance and cost. Using GPT-4 Mini, 11 Labs, and DeepGram for transcription seems like a smart move to optimize speed while keeping expenses low. It's impressive how you've managed to create a quick and responsive setup. Could lead to some exciting applications.
So this is what we're working on today. As you can see, there's some basic functionality here. You can chat with it. It stores all of the chats in a database. It vectorizes the chats as well. The way we use that is by pulling in related messages based on your chat messages so far. And it will go back in the history, even if it's from 10 years ago, it'll go back and pull up relevant messages that you sent to it in order to pull something useful that might be related to what you're asking about. For example, you should be able to be like, hey, do you remember that haircut place I was talking about maybe last year in the summer or something? Do you remember when we talked about that? And it stores the dates, the topic, and what I said about it. It should be able to come back and be like, yeah, you were talking about first choice or something. So there's a whole lot of cool things you can do with that. I feel like this is an improvement over the OpenAI offering because of the way that it handles memory. But anyway, enough of this. Let's get to the actual working with it using Codebuddy. So the next thing that I want to do is to implement a plugin system. I've already started. I did some basic groundwork with Codebuddy so far, but it's time to continue. We have a basic plugin system where like there's a manifest for the plugin. You can see there's this Hello World plugin right here. So this is like just the very beginnings of it. And this is what the plugin is. It's some sort of a init function. I don't think it's going to work this way exactly, but I need to start somewhere. I started this a little while ago. I'm going to keep it the way it is right now, but I'd like to add onto it, and maybe I'll throw out everything I had done previously. I don't know. Anyway, I did some work with, I figured out that we wanted to use VM2 for processing the plugin so that it's in its own sandboxed environment. That seems to work. It's got a test associated with it. That would be the plugin worker service. And then there's another service, the plugin service here. And this is just about loading the plugin itself and loading them from disk. We have this plugin folder that we're loading from available on the server. The way this is supposed to work is the plugins are like apps on Android. You have your Android operating system. You can load apps and then use those apps and so there's like hooks into the operating system. You can create intents for those apps. And so I'm thinking we're going to want to create intents as well. An example of what an app could potentially do would be like some sort of like weather app that's able to use an API call to find out what the weather is in a particular city and return some relevant data to the LLM so that it can then tell the user what it has looked up and found using the weather app. So we would have a check weather intent or something that calls an API and then comes back. So we need to create all the infrastructure that supports creating a plugin like this. And that's basically what we're going to do today. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to create some sort of intent system, registering some sort of intents and then describing how they're activated and triggered. I figure it would probably return some sort of JSON that can be utilized by the Jarvis operating system, the result of intents being invoked after they've been given some sort of parameters or parameter object, perhaps. I want to leave it open a little bit. I want to see what the AI comes up with without being very specific about how it gets implemented. I think we should start with that. So what I'm going to do is we're firing up Codebuddy. We've got all our plugin related stuff in here. The Jarvis service probably is what we care about there. Not the Jarvis client, but the service, because that's the server side. The Jarvis service is where things happen, handling the actual chat messages. This is where we would hook in and do an external call to maybe another plugin or fire off some sort of process and then let the user know that this process has been started. So this is like the entry point. There's somewhere in here where there would be an entry point for doing that. We'll have to figure that out later. So we want to be able to register intents. I think we just want to start there. An intent. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk to Codebuddy. It's going to be rather long-winded. I'm going to be repeating myself a little bit. And we're just going to see if we can come up with something that makes sense. Rather than using the push-to-talk keyboard shortcut, I think I'd rather use the microphone. I also like pressing here. This is basically the same as pressing this microphone button. You can press here as well. Let's see what we can come up with. I want to create a new system in the plugin that the plugins can utilize. This would be like an intent, like Android intents. The idea is that we would pass in the handler for the intent, like in the plugin, for example, in the Hello World plugin, I guess this would be the index.js file. There would be a handler there for a particular intent. The first intent would likely take the conversation history, maybe the related messages, and the most recent message. The conversation history probably wouldn't include the most recent user message. So we'd want to include that when processing the intent. When registering this intent, it could be part of the manifest or something. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but when we're registering this intent, we want to also include how this intent is triggered. An LLM call is actually going to be used to figure out if we should trigger this intent or not. So it's not going to be like a command, say this keyword. It's going to be more like, say this sort of thing. And if this sort of thing is said or that sort of thing is said, then we want to trigger this intent. I think maybe we should also, maybe it could be an array. Maybe there's different ways of triggering the same intent and we could describe those separately. I suppose it could all work as one message too. So I'm not sure about that. Yeah, I guess we'll just want to see what we can come up with as a system for these intents. We need to specify how it's triggered. We're going to always pass in the chat history, the latest user message, the related messages, which is another array of messages, really, just the same kind. And the result is always going to be a JSON object. The JSON object that is returned is going to be some like known class of some kind. It's JavaScript, so it's not TypeScript in this case, so it's going to have to just be a regular JSON object, but we're going to have to be smart about the sorts of things that can be returned in this JSON object. And I think we should start building up the Javadocs style documentation in this Hello World index file. So we can document the sorts of things you can return in the JSON objects, the fields, their types, and how they should be used. We'll have to work that out. I consider it to be fluid right now, but maybe make some assumptions for the moment just as a suggestion of how that might work. Let's see what we can come up with. Okay, that was a long one. Give it a minute. That was a really long one. It's going to be a few seconds. This is using Whisper 2, I believe, under the hood. It's not the fastest, but it is fairly accurate. Wow, it really is taking a while. I wonder if it's having to retry because maybe it was too long. Oh, all right, so that's pretty long. Hey, at least it did it. It took a while. I don't know why it took so long. It doesn't usually take that long, even for long messages like I gave. But hey, at least it got it all. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and submit this. I'm not turning Codebase on. I'm going to leave it as is, only all the open files. That's everything I want here. Let's see what it comes up with. I'm going to use no confirm mode because I'm not going to bother reading through the plan or anything. I'm just going to see what the code it comes up with is, and we'll go from there.
Allow me to dig into this. Once completed, I will provide you with the concise summary of the work.
It occurs to me that I didn't really talk about how to integrate this into the system, and I didn't specifically say not to integrate it, so it might actually try to do a little too much. Yeah. Creating an intent service, that's a great idea. Yeah, definitely.
Please excuse my interruption, sir.
Okay.
Sounds like you've laid out a solid plan for implementing an intent system in the plugin. You've successfully created the intentService.ts file, which manages intent registrations and matches them to user messages, along with updates to the Hello World plugin for intent handling. Do you want to proceed with integrating this with other services or adding tests next?
I like this. Okay, yes, it's got your list of intents. It's got a way to define those intents. Yeah, that's in the manifest of the plugin. And then it's got, let's see, oh, and it's documenting everything like I asked, which is great. Obviously, it's going to change. Actually, some of this, the positioning of it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But anyway, we'll continue. If there's something I didn't like there, I'll just remove it after. Handle greeting. Yeah. So it's getting the context. Okay, yeah, so it's just a single object rather than passing in multiple, which I guess that's okay. Yeah, sure. And then we just deconstruct it. One thing that I would want to do is give access to an LLM call or an external API call or a fetch mechanism. That would probably be important. Also, we want to have full control over which classes are available, which things you can import or not. That's something to consider later, but this looks okay for now. I wonder if we can create some tests around this new stuff. We've got the intent service. We're going to have to clean up the TypeScript at some point, but I'm going to leave it for now just to keep things simple. Okay. Let's see if we can create a unit test for the intent service. I want to create a unit test for the intent service. Just test the basics there. Not too much mocking, though. Actually,
allow me a moment.
I'm just going to add to this as well. I said not too much mocking, but I'd like to be more specific. I think we can use the Hello World plugin, perhaps, as a test, so that we don't have to mock the plugin itself. We can make it more of a functional test rather than a unit test. So I just I did a press and hold on the push to talk and made sure the cursor was right at the end of what I had said before. And it just appended to my previous message, and I was able to use push to talk for that. It's kind of a hidden feature. Oh, interesting. It opted to change the existing test.
Using the actual Hello World plugin for testing instead of mocks turned out to be a solid approach. I modified the tests to focus on real interactions, ensuring that the plugin's greeting intent works correctly and returns the expected response format. If you have any more tweaks or next steps in mind.
Interesting. It's not really what I had in mind. Whenever the AI comes back with something that's not what you were trying to say, you have to consider if it's trying to tell you something. Maybe there's an assumption you're making that you shouldn't be making. For example, is the intent service really functionally testable the way that it's been designed? I haven't really dug into the logic yet, so it might be that it's just not a really easy thing to test, or and it's actually better to do a more functional test where it has now updated a test. Yeah, interesting. It could also be that we just haven't implemented enough of the logic to really test it just yet. I'm trying not to dig into it. I'm trying to let the AI do as much as possible here. I would probably normally take some more time to read through what it's done and understand it, but I want to see how far we can get without having to do that. Okay, what I'm going to do is ask again. Let me make this a new test. So if you notice, I discarded what it had given us before. I went back to redo my original prompt, adding more to the original prompt. This is the recommended way of doing things. Rather than continuing the conversation and having it change what it had already worked on, it's better to start over and let it start from a fresh conversation. You can see right now, we're in a fresh conversation. It doesn't see any of the previous chats we've had. This is good. This is an ideal situation. You don't want to have all your previous chat history messing with it. We want it to approach the problem fresh. Now that it's got a little more extra direction, it's using the code as a reference. And yeah, this is what we want. So we want to make this a new test. Does it make sense to make this intent service test.ts file? If not, we can integrate it in a new test in the plugin worker service test.ts. Okay, so yeah, we're being more specific here, and let's just see.
All right,
let's see what
allow
it
me
does.
a moment.
Looks like it's giving the intent service test a shot.
Sounds like you've got a solid plan for testing the integration between the intent service and the Hello World plugin. I went ahead and created the intent service.test file, which tests greeting intents, handles different user scenarios, and ensures unrelated messages don't trigger any intents. Let me know if you need any further help with this.
Cool. Let's just see what happens, right? It's created this new test, and I want to run it. Give it a minute to recompile because I can't use these links here. I'm supposed to use the ones on the sides. Where are they? I'm not seeing them. I don't think this is going to work if I try running this here. Oh, maybe it does. Never mind. Okay, here we go. Okay, yes, they failed. It's hello world plugin.json. So it wasn't able to find the folder. C projects Jarvis web server. Yeah, no, that's wrong. Source server services source server again. So there's something not right here. I wonder if it can pick up on it if I just feed it back. I think you need to review how the folder names are constructed. Can you see any obvious issues?
Allow me a moment.
Oh, this time it didn't include what I pasted. Makes me wonder though, is it going to fix the issue? Let's try this again.
I noticed some inconsistencies in how folder paths.
Excuse me. No, that's not what I meant. I meant this. It was missing this part. Okay, let's try that again.
Yes, sir, I'm on it. Please excuse my interruption, sir. I have something for you. I figured out the issue with the path construction in the plugin service, where it was mistakenly duplicating the SLC server/plugins segment. I suggested modifying the constructor to fix it, and asked for your project's file tree to ensure everything aligns correctly. Did that make sense?
Okay, let's find out. I suppose that could have been the issue. Let's see. Prefixing it with a slash might reset the position to... But no, it is not fixed. So I'm going to copy this again. And yeah, so I'm just going to do exactly the same thing again, except this time I'm actually going to use 01. Let's do 03 Mini. I don't know. Let's see what...
Yes, sir, I'm on it.
So the idea here is to use a thinking model to think about this issue a little more deeply and see if it's able to come up with a good solution. It's going to take a little longer for it to actually process. Not much longer, apparently. I don't know. It's not looking great. If anything, that might be worse. All right, let's see.
Please excuse my interruption, sir. I have something for you. It looks like the issue was due to a duplicated folder path in your project, causing the system to look for the plugin.json file in the wrong location. I suggested changing the path construction in the plugin service to use path.join with separate arguments, which should fix the problem and make the code more robust across different operating systems. Let me know if you need any more help.
Let's try it and find out. This is the wrong test, actually. Although that, at least at some point, was working. Maybe it's not anymore. It looks like it's not. So I don't know if that's from the latest change or if it was broken already. It's possible that it was already broken before we started and wasn't resolved. Had a regression. Okay, so this isn't working. I'm going to undo the changes that were made. I think I can just go like this. Okay, which files were changed? Plugin service. This isn't a bad change, really. It just doesn't change anything, actually. So I might have to now dig into this myself. I'm going to give O1 a quick try just in case. Actually, you know what? Let's do proper O1, not mini.
Yes, sir, I'm on it.
This doesn't look different. It's really insisting on doing the same thing over again. Oh, that's different. Interesting.
Looks like the error came from the wrong construction of your folder paths, specifically with duplicated segments. I suggested changing the path constructor to use dir name instead of process.cwd to correctly point to the plugins directory.
Wow. Okay, the plugins test worked. Was it this one I ran? Plugin service. Yeah. And I want to also test the intent, which is no longer open. Intent service. Oh, shoot. I think I accidentally deleted it. Okay. Let's do that again. I think I accidentally undid it too far. And I could restore it.
Yes, sir, I'm on it.
Let's just generate it again. So hold on. I'm using O1 to generate. So I don't actually want to generate new code.
I'll need a moment.
The reason for that is I find O1 tends to make presumptuous decisions about your code that strays very far from what you're requesting. And that's because of its inner dialogue. It tends to look at the things that it said to itself and then just went with it. And that's not generally what you want. So I find Sonnet 3.5 is much better for actual code gen.
Please excuse my interruption, sir. I have something for you. You've decided to create a new intentService.test.ts file to test the integration with the Hello World plugin, which will let you check the entire intent processing flow. The tests cover various greeting scenarios and ensure the intent doesn't trigger for unrelated messages. Sounds like a solid plan. Do you want to go over anything specific about the implementation?
So we're getting somewhere. It actually runs. It found the plugin, at least. This is different code, but at least it runs. So that's a good start. Get all plugins. Plugin service is not initialized. Let's see if we pass this in. See if it's able to resolve it on its
Yes,
own.
sir, I'm on it. Please excuse my interruption, sir. I have something for you. It looks like the issue was that the plugin service was missing the getAllPlugins method, which needed to return all loaded plugins. Added that method along with a way to retrieve plugin manifests, so everything should work now and the test should pass. Do you have any other issues or questions about this?
Okay, I can see that, yeah. Because loading and getting are two separate functions in this system. See what the tests say. Hey, look at that! Ooh, that's amazing. Okay, all right. So it succeeded. Succeeded at doing what, though? I don't really know. Should process greeting intent with Hello World plugin. Okay, so what is it doing? It's got a blank history, blank related messages. It's calling process message. I guess the response comes back. It comes back with some sort of response. Interesting. Got a type. Wow, okay. It's got some interesting ideas as for what it should return in the JSON response from an intent. I want to have a look at that intent again, actually. Let's see. What has it done here? So yeah, here's the intent. The handler is specified here. It's interesting that the way it specifies it is different for the hooks versus the intent. That's something to address at some point for sure. So this index.js, this is the file I care about. The handle greeting is for the handle greeting intent. We got the context. That's why this is here, because yeah, that makes sense. So it's thrown in the Java doc in here, so at least you know what the intent context can contain within it. I wonder if this could be defined better somehow. I don't really know how, but yeah. What is a chat message, right? This isn't something people generally are going to have access to. Anyway, so yeah, it's returning this type. Interesting. Yeah. Cool. So this is the beginning of the intent system. We're going to have to think next about how do we continue from here? How do we give plugins access to some functionality that can be useful, making fetch calls outside. This is obviously something that would need to be locked down, so it would have to be done through a particular service that we would give them access to. Maybe another object gets passed in to the intent handler, and that allows you to make calls out or access to LLM calls to process things like the message or the result of the fetch call that you've done. Then there's also other considerations too. What if this is a long-running intent and the intention is for it to process over the course of an hour, maybe doing deep research or something, and it's like gathering all this information and then it returns. Obviously, the intention with these intents right now is just as a blocking call, like it's going to do its work immediately and then talk about what it's done when it's finished. In the future, I'd like to do some sort of long-running task as well. You could have it do long research projects or something like Operator, where like you're asking it to, maybe it even uses OpenAI's Operator one day and it's able to get tickets for you on Ticketmaster or something. Anyway, yeah, so we're gonna have to continue from here. Okay, so I think that's enough for now. You can consider this the first episode of the Jarvis operating system Codebuddy project. That's it. Thanks for watching.